Hi, I'm your host, Laura Nichols, and this is a note from your coach from me, Queen of the Pivot, to you, badass human. This show is designed as a quick dose of unfiltered motivation to empower you to create the life you want to be living, one of authenticity and alignment. It investigates the power of the pivot and helps create understanding of the human journey, all while sharing tales of pivots from my sometimes ridiculous human experience, as well as my 20 years of experience in working with other humans on growth and change. If you are interested in leveling up your life, stay tuned. A note from your coach starts now. Hello, my loves. This is Laura Nichols, and you are listening to Notes from Your Coach on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with me for the next hour, and I'm going to help you ignite your life with some unfiltered motivation. Each first and third Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard, I discuss some small but potent nuggets of truth from my book, Notes from Your Coach, to help you create the life you want to be living. This is episode 13, which is fun for a reason I'll tell you in a second. But when this comes out, it will actually be St. Patrick's Day, which in my family is a big deal because I had a St. Patrick's Day baby almost 17 years ago. And when he was born, we already had an Irish name picked out, not because he was supposed to be born on St. Patrick's Day, but because my family is Scotch-Irish. And then he ended up being born on St. Patrick's Day with red hair. I ended up with a little leprechaun. And so that is super exciting. But the whole reason that I'm talking about that is that the quote that we picked today is from the book Notes from Your Coach is the more you work toward what you want, the luckier you'll be. Success is not a random accident. And so we're going to touch base today about luck versus hard work and what that actually means. And in the first part of the show, we're going to talk about what it means to work hard versus be lucky. So I'm glad you're here. We're going to tackle this lie that floats around success, that it's luck, right? It's not about luck. You know, a lot of times we'll see somebody who achieves something and we're like, oh my gosh, they're so lucky. And what we really mean by that is I'm a little envious of where they're at, right? But that's complete garbage, right? If luck was all it took, I would just sit around and buy lottery tickets all the time instead of recording a podcast or writing a book, or trying to build a business, right? Success is not an accident. And so today we're going to break that myth wide open. So I want you to think about somebody who's really successful. In our case, you know, we're going to talk about Oprah, right? Everyone knows her. Like she's a billionaire, she's a media mogul, she's a literal empire built on empathy and authenticity. And people love to say that she caught a lucky break. But if you know anything about Oprah, she didn't wake up one day and trip over a microphone and all of a sudden have a talk show, right? She started very young. She broke into the news anchor business. And you know what? She actually got demoted. They told her that she was too emotional for TV, Oprah, right? Who had this crazy show. Imagine that, too emotional. And that's like saying that Gordon Ramsay is too passionate about food, right? Like it's just not a thing. So you know what she did? She didn't quit. She didn't blame bad luck. She doubled down. She leaned into her authenticity. And eventually, she didn't get lucky, she got undeniable. And I love the idea of becoming undeniable, working hard enough that people cannot deny your success and blame it on luck, right? So the world didn't give her a break, right? She forced the world to pay attention to her. And that, my friends, that is not luck. That is relentless, unapologetic work, right? You know, it's funny because we call people lucky when they win, right? We don't say people are lucky when they do something like lose their job or run out of gas or step in dog poop, right? You don't say, wow, they're so lucky. When people are crushing it, when they're doing their thing, that's when we say they're lucky because it's much easier to say that than to admit that they're working really hard and that they are slaying it, right? Um, it's like, you know, if your friend loses weight and people are like, oh my gosh, you're so lucky, you look amazing. No thanks, Karen. Actually, I've been getting up at 5 a.m. and working on my diet and healing my relationship with food while, you know, you might be out drinking. It's not luck, it is hard work, but we love to focus on the idea that this thing just got dropped out of the sky or we rubbed, you know, the magic lamp. And I'm saying all this to say that, like, the idea of luck is really a comforting lie, right? Because if we tell ourselves that it's random, that somebody else's success is just luck, and that it's not our fault when we're not lucky, right? It lets us off the hook. But here's some hard truth, and I really want you to listen to this. Luck isn't a strategy. You're not going to just manifest a paycheck. You're not going to vision board your way into a thriving business or a better job or the life you want without action, right? Opportunities happen, but if you're sitting on the couch and you're waiting for the universe to just hand you success, like a four-leaf clover that you find, right? You're going to be waiting a really long time. You have to be in the game looking for opportunities in order to catch that break or create the opportunity that then creates that break. And showing up once doesn't cut it, right? You've got to show up again and again and again and step through the mud and keep going long after it stops being fun, long after no one's clapping for you anymore, right? You have to keep going. One time I did a triathlon. I've actually done two sprints, not long ones, but sprints in my younger days. And the first one I did, I was the second to last person on that the the bike part, right before the run. And there was no one left to cheer me on as I moved into the next transition, right? There's no one left. Like I still had to keep going, even though there was no one there cheering me on. Actually, there was one person, it was my mom. So that just tells you all about a mother's love, right? So I think it's really important that we stop waiting for luck, right? And I love the idea of luck because I am a big believer in manifestation in the sense that it's very science backed, right? Like we get to create opportunities that bring things to us, and there's brain science to back that up. But the idea behind it is you're not waiting for something to happen. You are creating it, right? If you show up consistently, work relentlessly, improved so ridiculously that people had to call you lucky, because the truth is you would be making it so uncomfortable for them that they have to say it's luck. Because when people are seeing you work hard and putting the work in and you become Oprah, you become undeniable, it's so uncomfortable for the people who aren't putting the work in, right? Because they don't have an excuse. If you got where you got because you did the work, that means that they're not getting where they want to go because they're not doing the work, right? And here's the honest truth, and I think about this a lot. This hits me a lot when I'm sort of feeling a type of way. Nobody else is coming to save you. No one else is coming to rescue you. There's no magic shortcut, right? That's the downside, right? You are in this and you are in this alone. But here's the upside. You are 100% capable of creating your own breakthroughs, right? The world doesn't owe you success, but that doesn't mean that you can't create success anyway, right? We get to create the success that we want in this world. I told you that episode 13, is kind of fun to talk about luck because a lot of times, 13 is an unlucky number in a lot of ways. But if I have never said it before, I think I've said it in a couple episodes, but I am a Swiftie, right? I didn't start out that way. I came by it honestly. One of my best friends is a massive Swiftie, and I kind of was a good friend and got forced into listening to music. And then as I started listening, I caught on to the lyrics, and she's just such an amazing lyricist. And so I became a fan, and then I watched her flourish and create this empire, right? But if you know anything about Taylor Swift, 13 is her lucky number, right? A lot of things happen for her around 13. She creates a lot of things around the number 13. And so I think that what she did was she took a number that other people view as unlucky and she made it lucky. She created her own success in the sense that it was something unlucky that she's like, you know what, I'm going to own this and I'm going to rebrand it as something amazing, right? So when you think about those people who have the Midas touch, who when they touch things, things turn to gold, right? When they've created these empires and these companies or this career or this family, you know, that you might be a little envious of, that you might have a little bit of jealousy, that you kind of wish that you had. It's really easy to downplay their hard work and say, yes, but they got X, Y, and Z. And listen, I'm not saying that we all start on an even playing field. Like there are people who have privilege, right? Based on sex, gender, skin color, right? Class, right? So there is something to be said for that. However, when you blame everything on privilege, right? It takes away your own responsibility, right? You have a responsibility to own your life and to create what you want. No one is coming to rescue you. There's no one else that's going to come in on a white horse and, cowboy take me away. I used to love that song. Actually, I still love that song, right? You have to take responsibility here. And listen, I am saying this as somebody who loves luck. When I first started my business, every single day I would go out in my backyard and I would look for a four-leaf clover. I kid you not. Because four-leaf clovers are really special for me. It's something I've always done, but I was looking for confirmation that I was doing the right thing, right? Um, I love the idea of luck. And I still, even though I love the idea of luck, I know that it's got to be on me. It can't be on anybody else. I have to be the one that's taking the steps, working when it's hard, doing the things when I don't feel like doing the things anymore in order to bring about the life that I want. So I hope in this first segment, we've officially torched the luck myth, right? And I also hope I've gotten you a little fired up, right? So now what's next? If luck's not the answer, spoiler alert, it's not, right? Then what is? Well, that is where we're headed next. The truth is, creating your own luck isn't about wishing harder, right? It's about strategy. It's about working smarter, building momentum, and setting yourself up for those so-called lucky breaks, right? So stick with me because in the next segment, we're talking about exactly what it takes to do that. And trust me, it's a lot less about four-leaf clovers and more about showing up like a damn powerhouse. Let's go. All right, my loves, we are back. And if you're still here after that last segment, congratulations, because you are clearly not afraid of a little bit of truth, right? I laid some truth down in the last segment. So now that we have burned the idea of luck to the ground, right? Again, I love luck, love the idea of it. I'm a huge St. Patrick's Day fan, love a four-leaf clover. But let's talk about what actually fuels success because it's not looks. It's not sexy either. I'm just going to be honest. It's not Instagrammable. It's not something you'd want to put on your story. No one's lining up to clap for you while you're doing it, right? It's the grind. It's unglamorous. It's messy. It's why am I even doing it? That middle part that nobody talks about. But every successful person knows that all too well and literally can probably tap into those moments where they wanted to give up, where they thought, why am I doing this? Right. So let's talk about that grind that happens behind the glow up, right? That moment where you are putting the work in at 10 o'clock at night and no one knows you're doing it, or you have a first job and you're working on your second job afterwards, or let's say the glow up is this beautiful family, right? Those fights that happen in the background, those hard conversations of trying to figure out your values and if they meet. If you are on a weight loss journey, those moments where you are fighting with yourself to get out of bed to do the workout, right? Let's talk about the grind that nobody sees, right? The thing that's wild is like people see someone who's made it, and whether it's a millionaire or an entrepreneur, an athlete, or some influencer, right? And a lot of times they only see the glow up and they really just kind of think it happened or that someone was handed something, right? Like success is this magical overnight event. But that's because most people aren't on social media posting their failures, right? No one's live streaming that 4 a.m. wake up, right? Or the rejection emails or the anxiety spirals. I've had plenty of those. Or the nights where you're laying up late wondering if you should just quit and apply for a normal job, right? Nobody's highlighting those things. So let's talk about somebody else. We talked about Oprah last segment. So let's talk about Sarah Blakely, right? She's the founder of Spanx and a self-made billionaire. Um, People love to talk about the genius entrepreneur who got lucky, but what they don't always mention is that she spent 7 years selling fax machines door to door. Fax machines. Talk about unsexy, right? And while getting rejected by every manufacturer that she approached. 7 years. Can you imagine pitching your idea over and over and over and getting told no so many times you probably lose count, but still believing in something that much? That's not luck. That's audacity. She also made herself undeniable, right? What does that look like, right? Easy success is such a delusion, right? It looks so effortless from the outside. It's like watching a swan kind of glide across a lake. It looks so smooth and elegant. But what's happening underneath, right? I love the idea. You watch this water bird, a duck or a swan, and they're just floating across this beautiful pond. But underneath, they are paddling like hell just to stay afloat, right? And to move. We only see the top half. It's the same with people, right? All of these successful business people work really hard. There's a lot of thoughts around Jeff Bezos right now, but he didn't just get lucky, right? He spent years working out of his garage with a desk made from a door, honestly. And it's luck. Luck is not something that's going to get you there, right? No one's filming that part. Let's be real. No one wants to watch a 3 hour montage of you answering emails and eating sad desk lunches while your dream feels light years away. They want to see the after. They want to see the glow up. And so we don't spend a lot of time talking about this part of it. And this is the reality. Hard work is uncomfortable, right? If you have done something hard, which, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you either want to create the life you want to live, are uncomfortable because you don't like what you're sitting in right now, right? Or you're somebody who's done hard work before and you're continuing to do hard work. You know that working towards success is profoundly uncomfortable, right? Because you're doing work when you're not motivated, right? It's sending the email or posting on social media or doing it when you're afraid that you're going to get rejected, right? It's showing up even when no one's watching, because guess what? I actually don't know what my numbers for this podcast are. I just do it because I know that it's helpful and I want to put value out for people, right? So I do it even if no one's watching, right? Because for a long time, maybe nobody will be watching. I don't even know if my family listens to my podcast, honestly. Like, I don't know who's listening to this and who's watching it. I get emails from people out of the blue. And that's really cool. It's nice to have some feedback, but this is what it looks like to do the hard work, right? So let me ask you, are you willing to look ridiculous for a little while in order to get what you want, right? Because if you're not, and you're only willing to work when it's comfortable and cute, you're not building a success story, right? You're building a hobby, right? To get the big gains, to go on that journey, you have to do it when no one's watching and no one's applauding you, right? That grind that I'm talking about, that is the gatekeeper to success. I'm going to say it again. The truth is that the grind is the gatekeeper, right? It's the toll booth between you and success. And the price to get in, it's sweat, it's time, it's rejection, it's failure, it's getting up from the failure, it's the energy that you put in, right? And let me tell you something, most people quit right there, right when it starts to hurt. It's not because they're weak, right? It's because they think if they're struggling, something must be wrong, right? Again, we're stuck on this, it should be easy. And I'm a believer in talking yourself through hard work by saying, I've got this, it doesn't have to be hard. But those people who are successful have fallen and gotten up, right? The struggle doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing, right? It means that you're in the arena, that you're not sitting in the stands criticizing everybody else who's brave enough to try or blaming it on luck, that you're willing to say, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to fight, right? So when you hit that wall, trust me, you will. I've been there. I want you to remember you're not being punished, right? This is not a punishment when you hit the struggle. You're being prepared, right? Every hard day, every setback, every no, that's the universe asking, how bad do you want this, right? How bad do you want this? Are you willing to do it when you don't feel like it? And that's the trick, right? We think that if we are struggling, that it means that we're doing something wrong. But the reality is our brain's going to scream at us that we are doing something wrong because it wants to protect us. It wants us to be safe. Because when we're uncomfortable, our brain thinks that there's a problem. But there's not a problem. That seed that you plant in the ground has to move soil out of the way to grow up into the light. It has to move soil out of the way for its roots to grow deep down to give it nutrients, right? At a biological level, even a plant does hard work to survive and to grow and to become this beautiful thing. It's biological. It's how it has to work. And yet we think that it should just come because we made a decision one day for it to happen. And that's not what success looks like. Success is not walking out into the backyard and finding a four-leaf clover. Now, don't get me wrong, that's fun. I did it, I collected them. The other day I counted, I had like 75 of them. I haven't looked recently, but for a while, it's what I needed to do to continue working hard, right? And to believe that I was doing what I needed for my purpose. Um, and I'm not saying that you can't have fun while you're doing the hard work, because the reality is, gosh, I hope when you're on this journey that you do make it fun, right? But I just want you to know that by doing the hard work and being uncomfortable, it's not wrong, right? It doesn't mean that you're doing the wrong thing. It just that it's how it goes, right? You have to be rejected. You have to have the failures. You have to keep getting up. So we've pulled back the curtain on the grind, right? The ugly, unfiltered truth behind the success, the tears that happen in the closet, right? The moments where I've sat in my car and cried and said, I don't know what to do. Like, this is really hard. Those moments where I've sat with other businesswomen and said, is this worth it? Um, those moments where I felt like a failure and had to pivot and figure out what was next, right? And maybe you're thinking, okay, I get it. Hard work matters. But what about the people who work hard for years and still don't make it? What separates the ones who push through from the ones who give up? So that's what we're actually going to talk about next, right? Because hard work is important, but it's not enough on its own, right? And there's one brutal truth that stops most people cold. And we're going to talk about that next. All right, my loves, we are back. You are listening to Notes from Your Coach. And I told you I left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, the last one. We're going to talk about why most people quit and what the difference is between those that stay on the path and those that quit, or why those that stay on the path are successful. But before we get into that, I just want to highlight the whole idea behind this show. Is from a book that I wrote called Notes from Your Coach, and it has 90 quotes in it. It's super easy to get through, but the whole idea behind it is it's a little bit of a 90-day journey of self-development. So you read a quote, you read a little bit about it, and you do a reflection question, right? You do that for 90 days with the idea that you're taking yourself through your own coaching journey. And that was born from the idea that I really wanted people to be able to coach themselves, right? There's a place in this world for self-coaching, and I do it myself all the time. Now, with that said, I'm a big believer that everyone should have access to a coach. And when I say a coach, I mean somebody who is trained to listen, somebody who knows that you're here and you want to get here, and they do what they can to help you get there by asking really good questions, and allowing you to figure out what your barriers are. And so that ultimately is my love and the purpose for what I do, because I love watching my clients get through the hard thing and do exactly what we're talking about today, which is not relying on luck, but relying on their grit, and their hard work to create the life they want, whatever the big change is. Normally, I work with my clients for 3 months, and yeah, usually after 3 months, they've gotten somewhere big. My clients have done anything from switching careers to moving across the country. The teens that I work with have pivoted through the hard teen times. So if that's something that you're interested in, or you want to know more about what it would be like to work with me, please reach out. Notesfromyourcoach.com is my website. And yeah, I would love to touch base. I do free coffee chats to see if we would work well together. So hit me up. So let's talk about this. So we've destroyed the idea of luck, right? We've peeled back the curtain on the grind, right? That the grind behind the glow up. And now we're getting to the real stuff, right? Part that really stops most people. Because the truth of the matter is, the hard work really is crucial to what we're doing. But it's not always enough, right? If it were, like every construction worker, every single parent working 2 jobs, every teacher pulling late nights grading papers would be a millionaire by now. But let's be honest, those people are working their butts off and they're not millionaires, right? So most people don't quit because they're lazy, right? Most people quit because they hit a wall that they weren't expecting, right? And a lot of times that wall has a name, and that is fear, right? I think it's wild because most people don't necessarily quit because it's hard, right? They quit because they're afraid that it's all for nothing, right? If you picture the idea, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's two people digging, right? And they're both digging for gold, and one stops about 2 inches before that little gold nugget, right? And what made them stop? They stopped because they were afraid that it was all going to be for nothing, right? That they were going to dig and they weren't going to get anything from it, right? They'll put all of the hard work in, the sacrifice, the time, the energy, and the comfort, and they're still going to fail. And man, do I understand that on such a deep level, right? If you look at the idea of owning a business, it takes a lot of guts to get out there and start a business and try to create money just from being you or offering a service to other people, right? You have to be able to fight that screaming voice in your head that's saying this isn't going to work, or what do you have to offer, or no one's going to pay you for this, right? There's nothing more brutal than the idea that you could give everything and still not get what you want, right? It's really enough to make any of us want to crawl back into safety, right? The job that they hate but tolerate, right? The life that's fine but unfulfilling, right? Back into the comfort zone. But here's the thing, if you think of the comfort zone like a bed of blankets, eventually it's going to suffocate you, right? Quitting guarantees failure, right? But at least when you stick it out, you're giving yourself a shot, right? And a lot of times that shot is what most people never give themselves. So earlier we were talking about creating opportunities or being at the right place at the right time. You can't do that from bed, right? You have to put yourself in a place to create those opportunities. And that means giving yourself a shot. That means trying the thing even when it's scary. You know, it's like almost like if you left the gym after you've done the warm up, but before you actually start lifting weights, right? You stretched, you touch your toes, Maybe you did a squat or two to sort of like limber up your muscles. And then you're like, nah, good enough. Let's go get tacos, right? But the middle, the messy, the awkward, the why am I even doing this? That's where most people quit, right? I don't know if you've ever built like IKEA furniture, right? But it's a whole thing, right? You start off really motivated. You go to IKEA. Man, one time I spent 8 hours in IKEA, by the way, because I really wanted to like curate the perfect room. So I walk through every room, I figure out what I want, I eat at the cafeteria, I go to look at the things. And once you go to the area where you go to buy the boxes, I started panicking. So I went all the way back through, right, to really make sure I was getting what I want. So after I finally figured out what I wanted and the type of room I wanted to curate, I brought everything home, right? And I was really excited because it was the first time I was buying furniture for myself. It was right after college. And, um, we got all the boxes in, and those boxes can be really heavy, by the way. And you start off really motivated, and I'm unboxing everything. And I'm like, yeah, like I've got this. Like I'm newly an adult, and this is exciting. And then about 45 minutes in, I'm surrounded by all of these wooden planks. I've got three screws left over, right? And this bookshelf that looks like modern art rather than storage, right? When you mess it up. Because if you've seen those IKEA directions, you know that they can be really confusing, right? So then you have to take it apart because you didn't do it the right way. That is when most people quit halfway through. When it looks like nothing that it should look. It doesn't look like the picture on the box, right? You signed up for this beautiful bookshelf and it doesn't look right. So forget it, right? But the people who succeed, right? Those are the ones that stick it out. They tighten up the wobbly parts, they figure out what's backwards, and they finish that damn bookshelf, right? That's what makes you undeniable. You keep showing up, right? Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is very much a part of it. Every success story that you admire, it's built on a mountain of screw ups, right? Like it wasn't this straight line A to B. It is a squiggly line, sometimes backwards, forwards, backwards again, right? If you know anything about Michael Jordan, there's this book I used to love to read to my elementary school students. I want to say it's called Salt in His Shoes, and it's about Michael Jordan, right? Everyone knows him as the greatest basketball player of all time. I will stand by that, at least for my generation. But did you know that he was actually cut from his high school basketball team? What if he had quit at that moment? What if the dream that he had in his head to be an NBA player didn't look like that because he got cut and he quit, right? It didn't look like the bookshelf from IKEA. If he had quit, we wouldn't even know his name, right? The difference between the people who make it and the people who don't, it's not talent necessarily or luck, right? It's the ability to get back up one more time when they fall down. I'm going to talk about my girl again, Taylor Swift, right? If you know anything about her, there was a period of time where the whole world was against her, right? Except for her fans who have never been against her because some of them are diehards who have been here since the beginning. Shout out to you guys. But there was a time when there was all this drama, right, between her and Kanye West and a phone call and what she said and whatever. And if she had quit in that moment because things weren't going the way she thought they were going to, we wouldn't have had the Eras tour. She wouldn't have been so wildly successful in the last 2 years, right? Did she take a break? For sure. Did she sit and lick her wounds a little bit and hide? 100%. But then she decided to come out and keep going, right? So, how do you push through when you are face down in the dirt, wondering if it's even worth it, right? These are the things I want you to think about. For number one, remember your why. Your reason has to be bigger than your excuses. Are you doing this for your family, for freedom, for the version of you that's tired of playing small? That is your life raft. That's what you have to hold on to. Number two, redefine failure. Failure is not a sign to stop. It's a sign to adjust a little bit. If your first attempt doesn't work, that doesn't mean that you're done. It means that you've got some data and your GPS needs to recalculate a little bit, right? So know that it's just a stepping point to success. And number three, focus on the next step, not the whole staircase. That whole staircase can seem really overwhelming. What is the next thing you have to do? Stop focusing on how far you have to go. Don't look at the top of the mountain, right? What is that one step ahead of you? Where's the next base camp, right? And then after you get there, what's the next one, right? Really, honestly, the secret to not quitting is actually simpler than you think it is. Stop focusing on how far you have to go and then look at how far you've already come, right? So when you're in that moment that you want to stop, those are some things to think about. All right, so here's where we're at in this podcast. We've blown up the luck myth. We've exposed the grind. We've tackled the fear that makes most people quit. But now we get to the good stuff, the strategy, right? Motivation's great, but without a plan, it really fades. So in the next segment, we're going to get tactical. I'm talking about how to create opportunities instead of waiting for them, right? Because the people who succeed aren't the ones waiting for a door to open. They're the ones who build their own damn door. Let's go. All right, my loves, we are back. Welcome to the final stretch of today's episode about luck versus success. If you've stuck with me this long, you're not here for the fluff, right? You're here because something in you knows that you're meant for more. Something in you knows that this is not the life you want, that you're ready to make change, right? We've torched the idea of luck. We've dug into the grind. We've faced down fear. And now it's time to stop waiting for someone to hand you an opportunity. And it's time for you to start creating your own, right? Because again, I'm going to say it, no one is coming to save you. No one's just going to come discover you while you're binge watching Netflix, right? Waiting for that lucky break, right? You have got to be your own big break. So let's talk about how that happens, right? You know, a lot of times people talk about opportunities kind of like their weather patterns. Like you sit around and wait for the right one to blow in, right? Maybe next year will be my year. Maybe I'll meet the right person who opens the door for me. Maybe if I keep manifesting hard enough, the universe will deliver. And again, I am talking about this as someone who's all about good vibes, positive energy, right? But honestly, the universe is not DoorDash, right? It's not just going to show up at your door, right? You have to create them. Um, by people who are willing to take risks, make noise, put themselves in the right places over and over until something clicks. Just an example of this. So recently, um, I had a magazine article written about me, right? And my favorite question is, how did you find me? Like whenever I have a new client who reaches out and is interested in working with me, I'm like, how'd you find me? Because I'm always curious and it helps me figure out what's working, what's not. So the magazine article that came and was written about me came because I did a speaking engagement for a local women's conference on burnout, right? So I spoke in front of all these women about the idea of burnout, what it looks like, um, how to avoid it, what happens when you have it, right? And the author of the article saw my speaking engagement and months later reached out to me to do an article on me, right? Well, that speaking engagement came because I met with my local chamber um, about my job and like what I do and being in the community and what can I help with within this community? How can I give back to where I live? And she offered me a speaking engagement because she liked what I was about and what I had to say, right? If I had just sat at home and never made the appointment to go see my local chamber, I wouldn't have ended up with a magazine article, right? I had to have created the opportunity to happen. It didn't just come, right? It's so funny because half the time we're not even really waiting for an opportunity. We're actually waiting for permission. Like somebody else is going to show up with a clipboard and say, congratulations, you're officially allowed to chase your dreams now, right? You're good enough. You're worthy enough, right? We're looking for confirmation for somebody else. But that confirmation doesn't come from other people. You have to listen to that pit in your stomach that says, I am ready for something more. This is not the life I want. I want to be doing X, Y, and Z. I'm uncomfortable because I don't like where I'm at. I need to make a change. No one else is going to come over and do that for you. Okay. But if you're looking for permission and you're listening to this, I'm giving it to you. Permission is granted, right? If you're waiting for the sign that it's time to make that change, that pit in your stomach, that thing that keeps you up at night, I'm giving it to you. This is your sign. This is it right here. If you need a sign, here you go, right? But no one's going to come along and pick you. You have to pick yourself, right? Beyonce did not wait to be crowned a queen. She built her own damn throne, right? Make yourself undeniable, right? No one feels ready, right? No one who jumps off the cliff to do that scary thing 100% feels ready. What they do is they choose courage, which means taking the action in spite of the fear, right? No one feels ready for the next big thing. And guess what? It all the way up. Everything I've done, the next level, I still don't feel ready, right? I still don't feel ready for the next thing. But what I have learned to do is take action anyway. Let it be clunky. Let it be imperfect because there's no such thing as perfect. Let it be whatever it's going to be, but do it anyway, right? If everyone waited to start before like when they were ready, no one would be doing the things, right? All of the successful people in this world, they started before they felt ready, right? And then they continued to get better by doing it, not by waiting, not by sitting on their couch, not by waiting for somebody else to tell them that they should do it, right? So how do we do this? How do we create our own opportunities, right? Let's break it down. Number one, get a little loud, right? You have to let people know what you're about. If you're starting a business, if you're chasing a promotion, if you're launching a project, people can't support you if they don't know what you're doing, right? Post about it, talk about it, share it. Yes, it is awkward. Do it anyway. A lot of times people will ask me, other business owners, like, how do you post on social? Like, how do you like put yourself out there? And I'm like, I don't know. I just do it. I'm the girl who will post after yoga and say, I had this thought, right? I wasn't always like that. I just had to do it, right? I had to get loud. I wanted people to know these thoughts because I know that they were helpful for people, right? So get loud about what you want and what you're interested in. That's number one, right? Number two, be where the action is, right? Opportunities are just like Wi-Fi, right? They're stronger in some places than others, right? You need to get in the rooms with people who are doing what you want to do, right? Network, go to events, join online communities, surround yourself with the people who are playing the game, not just watching from the sidelines, right? So back to the story, like I went and I got in a room with my local chamber, which then led to a speaking engagement, which then eventually led to a magazine article, right? Get where the action is. Be with the people that you want to be around. Number three, solve problems, right? People pay attention to those who bring value to a situation, right? Whether you're helping a customer or your boss or an entire audience, the fastest way to create opportunities is to solve a problem that people actually care about, right? Opportunities aren't like a reward. They're really just the side effect of being useful, like especially if you're talking about in a business sense. But this is applicable in a lot of areas, right? So those are ways that you can break it down to create your own opportunities. But did you notice you can't be sitting on the couch to be where the action is, right? You can't be just sitting on the couch, not doing anything and get loud. right? You got to be solving people's problems. These are all action-oriented things. You got to get out of your head, out of the thoughts, out of your brain telling you you're not good enough, out of the idea that you're waiting for somebody else to come along and tell you how to do the thing or that you're worthy. And you have to take that step. It doesn't even have to be a giant leap. It could be a tiny little baby step. You know, when babies first start walking, how awkward they are? Let it be awkward. Who cares? At least you're moving. At least you're moving in the direction of your dreams and the thing you want to do, right? Creating those opportunities for yourselves is the number one way to make success happen, right? Here's the truth that most people really don't want to hear. Your next opportunity is already there, but it's not going to come to you. You have to go get it, right? When I made the decision that I needed to go back into school counseling recently, so I've been back as a school counselor for, I don't know, probably about 6 weeks now. I reached out to a friend who had a job at her school and went and had lunch with the staff. And from there, it led to, you know, hey, this would be a great fit. Let's get you in for an interview. And when it's the right opportunity that you've created because you have taken the action, it comes relatively easily, right? Nobody owes you a dream job. Nobody owes you a platform, a lucky break, or a shortcut, right? The second you stop waiting and start acting like the main character of your own damn story, everything changes. You know, I have a friend who likes to talk about the fact that I'm this master manifester, right? And like when I want something, it just happens. That's not really true. I do manifest things, but it's because I create the opportunities to make them happen, right? From the house that I ended up buying on my own to the business that I created to the job that I just got, right? To I have, you know, a weight loss journey that I've been on, right? All of those things are based on opportunities that I've created, right? Which in the end does look like manifesting and is manifesting because if you look at the brain science behind it, you're teaching your brain to look at things a certain way, right? But you have to stop waiting for people to open doors and start building your own doors. You have to stop hoping to get picked and start picking yourself. You have to stop wishing for a breakthrough and become the breakthrough. You have to make yourself undeniable. Here's the truth. Successful people aren't lucky. They are relentless. And if you've made it this far and you've listened to this whole podcast, I know that you have it in you, right? I know that you have what it takes and that you're not just going to rely on luck. The ball is in your court at this point. Are you going to wait for the opportunity or are you going to make it, right? I know what I think. I think you have it in you and you're ready to take that step. So, as you step back into your human journey, remember this week's unfiltered motivation. Success is made. It's not luck, right? A detour is never wasted. You've got this. In case you need a reminder, you are a total badass. Keep rocking it. Until next time, stay true, stay empowered, stay resilient, and remember the power of the pivot. If you want to reach out to me, head over to my website, notesfromyourcoach.com. I'll also link it in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. If you listened to this and it was helpful, please pass it on to somebody else. And I'll catch you next time. Always remember that you are your greatest asset. For more notes from your coach with me, Queen of the Pivot, tune in every first and third Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. Each episode is chock full of unfiltered motivation to ignite your life and focuses on the tiny nugget of potent truth to empower you to take action and understand the power of the pivot. Share this show and share your journey using hashtag Notes from Your Coach. Subscribe and leave a review by visiting notesfromyourcoach.com.